Right, so we're going to continue with more news now. As the world celebrates International Women's History Month, women in South Africa have joined in on those celebrations. The gathering comes at a time when South Africa celebrates 30 years of democracy. However, women around the world are still facing challenges. So Minister in the Presidency, Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, is addressing the event in Houghton Johannesburg. Let's listen in.
Incredible women, hosted by a remarkable and phenomenal and incredible woman. However, the problem is that I'm right towards the end of the program. So my speech is in trouble because all I wanted to say has been said. And it's very difficult to follow in some of the speeches that were delivered, more especially when it's a keynote address. So I was supposed to stand here to emphasize the paramount importance of human rights, inclusion and empowerment in our society, in particular as it relates to women. But it's a tall order now. These pillars form the cornerstone of a just, equitable world, and where every individual, regardless of their background, has the opportunity to thrive. However, after the welcome address by President Motlanthe, my explanation of the first part on human rights is already covered. And my life has been made easier. Actually, I learned more listening to him about the women's role against the struggle for the suppression of human rights of the black people. I did not know the narrative of 1913 and the other towns that were involved, so thank you for that. However, the significance of our country's celebrations of human rights are tinged in the histories of atrocities of Human Rights Day. That it's not even Human Rights Day, the atrocities that were committed on this day by the apartheid government against the people of South Africa. If I have to borrow from President Ramaphosa's address today, I'm sure all of you were getting ready to get here. You didn't listen to his address. So you were not going to be sitting idling. You should have been sitting listening to the president address the Human Rights Day. Let me quote. He says, "Although many decades have passed, we still remember with great sorrow and pain the 69 people who were killed and many more who were maimed as they protested in peace against the grave injustice imposed upon them. We still recall how every black person, that is African, colored and Indian, and if I might add, every woman irrespective of race, were denied the basic human rights to which they were entitled. For us, therefore, human rights cannot be mere ideals. They must be the foundation of our collective humanity, and who are best to champion humanity more than women? So as women sitting around these tables, we are the ones that must be sure that not only our country, but the world that we reside in and contribute in, it's a humane society because we are best to represent it. And like President Motlanthe said, women get it right the first time. Every person, regardless of race, gender, religion, and any other characteristics, is entitled to basic human rights and freedoms. This includes the right to life, liberty, and security. And the right to security in our country is a major challenge for women, with the gender-based violence and femicide and the abuse of children. The security aspect is one where women, we must rise, re tshware thipa ka bogaleng. We all have now a right to freedom of expression, education and work. And as we speak today, South Africa celebrates 30 years of freedom and democracy under the theme 30 years of democracy, partnership and growth. That 30 years could not have been if we did not partner with each other so that we could grow our country. Given that the government has ensured that millions of South Africans have been lifted out of poverty, I can talk about access to housing, access to water, electricity, and educational opportunities, Prof. I can also talk about that today, Centurion of today is far much more better than Verwoerdburg of the apartheid era. How many of you knew that Centurion was once Verwoerdburg? They only sold taxis, and I knew because my mother was in the taxi industry. They only sold taxis and old second-hand cars in Verwoerdburg. But today, the Centurion we'll talk about is a different place. Midrand is far much better than the halfway house of then. Midrand is known of Waterfall, Mall of Africa. And even my hometown of Tando is no longer a one-way street. Says Ayanda, you'll confirm. Thoyando has 5-star boutique lodges and hotels. We have a riverfront with all sorts of things. If I go up to Matox have a highway. We've got drive-through centers. If we go to Nobody Mutapo, we're no longer regulated only by traffic cycles. We're regulated by robots, and they are an extension of the university town. That would not have happened during apartheid. And it's not me saying so. Go and check the census 2022 results. They give you that detail. And yes, fewer women are dying in childbirth, and far fewer children are dying in infancy because of the gains of our freedom, but because of the importance and the protection of human rights in this country. However, is this enough? I'm speaking in a safe crowd of educated women and few men, if I may say. A change in the balance in events of this nature. We all know of the Maslow hierarchy of needs. When one achieves one level of needs, the next level beckons. Because if you don't start to aspire for a higher level, then your purpose of living ceases. Because a human being is a continuous improving being. It doesn't matter age, it doesn't matter standing, but we all seek to improve. That's why we'll say I'm a first generation university graduate, but there will be second, third, and fourth. And that's why we'll say we want to be better than our mothers, because our mothers were trailblazers. And that is the Maslow hierarchy of needs. So what has been done so far, and not only by government, by private sector and society, has made our country be one of the best. But it's not enough, because we have gained a higher level of knowledge and then we aspire for better level of knowledge. I think the professor will articulate it better. That's why you started first year with basic learning, or when you, in fact, not even university, if you go to school, your grade R, except grade R's of today, because we didn't do grade R's or grade 0, we were doing grade 1. Grade 1 we learned to write 0, ABC, and to count 1, 2, 3 up to 10. And then you learn, if you read at a particular point, and where we grew up, they made you read the Bible. And then they'll progress you to the next class. If you could read it in English when you are in a vendor speaking school, you will be promoted to the next grade, which is grade 2 or grade B, and then when we called them, because they said you have achieved higher. So that's how the Maslow hierarchy of needs work. So when we say we are not happy, it's not because it's not been done. It's because now we know better, so we aspire for more. I challenge my friends and I say, who created the black diamonds? And I say this because Mrs. Mbeki is sitting here. Mam Mbeki is sitting here. The term of black diamonds were under the leadership of President Mbeki, wherein we could all boast of driving a BMW 3 Series, an Audi A3 or A4, a Mercedes-Benz C-Class. Now we aspire for more, where we could aspire to live in townhouses and cluster houses. Now we want to live in plots and acres. We want to live in gated estates. We want to live in freestanding houses in gated estates, because we now know better. And that's how the Maslow hierarchy of needs happen. So what we have may not seem enough, But you must follow the English saying that says success is not the measure of the height you have achieved, but the depth from where you come. But it doesn't mean you aim lower. So the human rights we're celebrating today, they are not enough, but we are glad that they are sacrosanct. In particular for women. Because we can have human rights, but without inclusion, the human rights will be meaningless. If you go to the JSC and check on the companies listed on the JSC, fewer women are directors and CEOs of companies. We are celebrating, I don't know if I can make the announcement, Standard Bank is the CEO of Standard Bank incoming, or is it FNB? The CEO of FNB is woman. I think Standard Bank is also working towards that, and a couple of others. But you can name fewer. Whereas in government, we're achieving between 40 and 50%, but we have not seen that translation into the corporate world. But who controls the country? It is the corporate world that controls the country. Therefore, it means inclusion is a key for us as women in unlocking the full potential for both our children and ourselves, like we have done today. And thank you to Gugu Mutlante for getting us together today. It's not just about the celebration. It's about creating a network of women, remarkable women, phenomenal women who can lean on each other for support, for guidance. Because we have lacked that as women. We were known for pull head down syndrome. What is important, and says Gugu, what is important is that to get us together in this room, I forgot to ask how many of us. We were starting a cycle of women who can rely on each other, guiding each other, and support each other. Because boys have a boys club, or not one, boys clubs, where they support each other. But women, we don't have that support system. You don't have anyone you can talk to and relate to at the same level that you are. And you can ask me. I know. To be on top, very difficult. It's very lonely, it's very cold. So I rely when I do certain things. Oh, they say, oh, Mrs. Mklante is doing. I say, oh, we are partnering here. We're not starting our own. Because that network is important in ensuring inclusion. Because men are not going to invite us to the table. They are not going to include us. When they include us, they'll be doing a tick box exercise, checking not the best amongst us, but checking the most pliable amongst us, so that their statistics look good. But if you look at the substance, there was a time when women in corporate were only doing corporate services. You remember? They were not chief executives who were women. Women says, oh, we've got in the executive, we have women. Excuse me, it's corporate services. When we are lucky, they'll also give us legal. And even that legal, when they were giving us, it's not because of our sharp legal brains. They were giving us legal because they knew they were going to outsource to legal, male-owned legal companies. And go and check the briefs. The briefs were given to male senior advocates, male instructing attorneys, but not women instructing attorneys. Go and check in our court roll. Yes, we are very happy and applaud the efforts of President Ramaphosa to elevate women in the judiciary, with him directly nominating Judge Mandis to take over as the Concord judge. That shows the confidence he has on women, and we say that celebration, we must be there. There will be people who will try to pull her down with her judgments. They'll critique them. It is our role as women to stand up and defend. There are those who are better than us. To create a cycle that we know that when I'm about to fall, there are sisters holding my back. Not only holding my back, but cushioning my fall is not going to be as painful, and I can dust myself and continue to soldier on. We can only build an inclusive society if we embrace diversity, if we celebrate the unique contributions of every individual amongst us, and foster a sense of belonging and mutual respect. But majority of us, and in particular us as women, we don't want to embrace diversity. We do not want a person who holds a view and say, let's negotiate, let's engage until we get to a common view. We are mostly comfortable with those with the same views with us. But that does not build us. That does not strengthen us. We must know that Ayanda is better than Khumbudzo on this case, and I know that when I need this, this is Ayanda's territory. Maybe it's not the right time, says Google, for me to say this. But I'm going to do it anyway. I'm told it's a no Twitter, no social media platform. So in my line of work, because I'm no longer in the line department, we looked at what are the things that we need to do to support women, because the cost of living are very high. And there are things that we talk about and take for granted. And my experience when I was a minister for communications and digital technologies, when we were doing digital migration, it made me visit all post offices in the country, but almost made me visit the villages and townships surrounding the post offices. And when we did the visit, I was shocked by the depth of poverty in some of the communities. And I remember growing up with Maza and Elembeki and your project in Bushbuck Ridge for empowering women with the Women Development Bank. And I said, I can't do a women's development bank. What can we do? Because you get into a yard, it's dead poverty. They are dead poor, you know, it's bad. And you say, but there's a yard and there's a tap, there's water. Why can't they plant vegetables and feed themselves? Maybe it's because I come from, I'm a village girl, I come from the rural areas. We've always, in the Limpopo province, tried to feed ourselves. And I said, maybe let's start the food garden project and the greening project, because you stay, there's no shelter, there's no shade. People are stuck in a house that is stuffy. When they could get out and they get sick because they are cramped in that house. And we said, let's do that project. And when we're planning, when we're doing the write-ups, so my office say, actually, says Gugu Muntlante does the same project. I said to them, we must partner her. And why partner her? She has learned a lot with the projects that she does in the schools of Johannesburg. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I don't have to have my name in that project. Her name, when it's elevated, it elevates my name. Not because my name must appear side by side with her, but when she is phenomenal, when her work is acknowledged, that impact is what should drive us. But our tendency as women is that we don't want to collaborate. And we don't want to support each other. We want to reinvent. I want to copy. Therefore, and I gave an example, in Limpopo we are quite entrepreneurial. So you start a business, you should know that in a month or two, Sesimpo Makura will tell you. Women were making money baking scones for weddings, for funerals, for hosting. All of a sudden, you had 10 women were doing it because to service. All of a sudden, you've got 2 of them. It's no longer a profitable business. And I asked, why can't you partner and then start to do cakes? Oh yes, some of them are making very beautiful cakes and delicious cakes. I said, and some of them said, no, we're going to teach others to do it. But women are terrible at partnership. And we're saying as government, as we start the 30 years, the new 30 years of freedom and democracy, it should be about partnership. And we must learn through a network like this that you have convened us in to build that partnership that will be sustainable. So as we leave here, I'm hoping that you are not leaving only with the contact number of the person you already know, we'll leave with an extra one who we can say, what area are you in? How do we share notes? How do we compare notes? That's the purpose. Otherwise, this day will be wasted, isn't it? Because for us to achieve inclusion, we must do it ourselves, but inclusion on its own doesn't mean much. There's something called empowerment, which is about equipping individuals with tools, resources, and opportunities they need to shape their own destinies. It means breaking down barriers to access and creating pathways for people to fulfill their aspirations and dreams. Empowered individuals are agents of change, capable of driving progress and innovation in their communities. So if we say, let's say we have our human rights and our women rights, except that the sanitary towels are still not in all schools. We'll need to get them to all schools. We then establish a partnerships through credit to Cisco Kumutlante's work of getting us in networks like this. And we say we're going to include ourselves. But there's no point of me partnering with you when you're not empowered, because you will not add value. But who is best to empower us? It's us, each other. Make a conscious decision. And I'm going back to when I was a Minister of Small Business and Development. I made a conscious decision that I'll wear South African labels. No international labels. I'll go and get SMMEs. On that red carpet to Sona, you can diss me, you can do all sorts. It doesn't matter. Because that money is spent on a South African SMME fashion designer who can say, I have dressed a minister. But are we conscious and conscientious about our life choice decisions? And as women, we are very important. We like brands, we want all sorts of things. Have you ever asked yourself, where did you buy that brand? Is there no South African brand? The other time when I was accused, I took the president window shopping in one airport. We were going to be parked there for 3 hours. And I said, President, no, we can't just chill in this VIP lounge. It doesn't have food, by the way, VIP lounge. They give you water and tea. If you want good coffee, you better go to Starbucks, by the way. That coffee, it's horrible. So we went window shopping in Spain at the airport. And he was looking. We went to 5 or 6 shops. Everything was made in Spain and also in the very region where we were refueling. And I asked myself, if I walk the corridors of OR Tambo, would I find made in South Africa, made in Houghton? No, we buying everything that was everywhere. So when I was in small business, I met with women who were in the cosmetics and beauty industry. Portia M, Nalotika, Corium, just to mention a few. And you know what those young women said to me? They said to me, Minister, we aspire to replace L'Oreal and all the fancy names. And I asked myself, how are you going to do that? They say, because of you. By the time we left small business development, in terms of my deployment, we had placed 282 products in the shelves of large retailers, not at the back. You can go to Pick and Pay, you can go to Clicks, you can go to Discam, you can go to ShopRite Checkers, you can go to any store you mention. You will not find Nalotika, Corium, and Portia M at the back. They are now visible. Why? Because we fought for that space. We said, and we had to say to them, in product development, you cannot put the same price as L'Oreal, because people will go for the known brand. You need to establish your own brand. Now, because Portia M, Nalotika, and Corium are known, they can compete L'Oreal in their own terms, because now you are comfortable using them. We said to Batu and Drip, if you put a price of, Nike is now cheap. It was the most expensive sneaker? The Ray J's or the Gucci sneakers. If you put Batu in the same pricing range with a Gucci or an LV sneaker, South Africans are going to buy Gucci and LV sneaker. So you must always beat them in price. We must make conditions for you to be able to compete on a lower price. That's why majority of you, next time when we wear sneakers, I'll want to see you in the local sneakers, because that's what we are going to use to grow the economy. And at that point, I'm hoping we'll have female making sneakers. Because yes, and I've asked, I was privileged to meet young designers, so we've been supporting Tebe Magugu in his work that he's doing brilliantly, his collaboration with Adidas. I don't know, many of you, when you wear Adidas sneakers and Adidas clothes, did you check whether it's made by Tebe Magugu? Yes. The young ones check. We need to check. So don't just buy that Adidas, you must check it's a Tebe Magugu product, to support that collaboration so that they can renew that collaboration. It has put him on the international mark. You must buy your Tula Cindy, you must buy all that which is South African. So I met the young clothing designers in the country late last year, and I said to them, you know, you are doing well with the customized gowns for special occasions, but every day we're still battling. We're still forced to buy Zara, we're forced to buy H&M, and forced to buy, and Stan Hayes says we buy pepper, but they import from somewhere else. But imagine if you could be wearing your everyday wear made in South Africa, because that is empowerment. And I'm going to say this, go and check the Jews. Check where they spend, how many times their rent circulate within the Jewish community. Check the Muslims or Indians. Check how many times their rent circulates in their community before it goes out. Do you know how much does government pay in social grants? Do you know? The SRD grant, Social Relief of the Distress, we pay 47 billion. Now in April is going to be 49 billion rands. But that SRD does not stay in the township or in the village. It immediately moves to town to ShopRite checkers. When I was in communications, I was saying it must stay in the spaza shops. We must be able to get that and redeem it there. Not the other owned spaza shops, and I'm going to be political sensitive president. Not in the other owned spaza shops, but South African owned spaza shops. The social grant from the elderly, do you know how much of it stays in the township? None. You go and cash it at Boxer, you cash it somewhere else, but you don't spend it there. So even your salary, how much of it stays in the township, in the village where you come from, and because you live in suburbs, in a women-owned store or in a black-owned store, black inclusive Indians, coloreds, and Africans. We need to start being conscious, and I know you love your SMEG. But can we say what is it that is made here? Because empowerment will not start anywhere. In South Africa, we are lucky that majority of the populations is women. So imagine if women take a conscious decision that we're going to, with any purchasing decision, we're going to empower another woman. Where will the women folk be? And as I borrow the words of President Motlanthe, we must do it better the first time. And thank you very much.
Well, those were remarks from Minister in the Presidency Khumbudzo Ntshavheni addressing an event being held in Houghton Johannesburg as the world commemorates International Women's History Month. South Africa is obviously also joining in on those celebrations. So we're going to leave it there for now. In fact, also leave the show there for now. Thank you very much for tuning in.